So, cheers.
Cheers.
We are sitting here, Vincent. Great to meet you, actually. Had some couple of hours here at your beautiful estate. We are still in Vaud in Switzerland, right?
Yes.
The French-speaking part of Switzerland. A little bit shaded by your beautiful wines behind us,
Yes.
Lake Geneva and the Alps. As I learned, you don't call it Lake Geneva because it is the international.
That's so, when it's international, you're allowed to.
Then okay.
You're allowed the mistake. But here, locals, Lake of Geneva, it's a crime.
It's a crime.
But I forgive you totally.
You forgive me.
Yes.
Highly appreciated. And I'm looking much forward to have you in Copenhagen in January 2026. For you, Copenhagen has a very special connotation, right? Or a very special role in your life. Because,
Yes, of course. My wife is Danish from Copenhagen, and I met her there. So of course, it's a great city. No, I really like Denmark, Copenhagen, obviously, and wow, how can I be different? Of course, I like the country,
and I
like to go, once a year.
Beautiful. And I can tell you, you are not the first winemaker coming to the Cool Climate Wine Summit who has such a connotation to Denmark. We have quite some who are either married to a Dane or they have some Danish family roots, or I don't know. It's really kind of funny.
That's funny. And just 6 million people, but roots everywhere.
Spreading.
It's like
totally.
Yeah, it's like the German. They're everywhere.
Even worse.
Even worse.
So now, perfect. Let's get to know you a little bit before we dive into the estate. You get, like every other winemaker, the same set of questions from me. Question number one for you: if you would not be a winemaker today, what would be the alternative?
I would be a chef, or trying to be a chef. I like to cook at home, and this is something I watch a lot of video on my phone, recipe cooking show, something. So I like to cook, and I would have loved to maybe go on this job as a cooker profession. And in the past, I did a lot of. I'm a huge movie fan. So there is no connection at all with the wine, because the cooking, of course, there is, but not the movie industry. But I was as a teenager, I was going all the time to the movies, always. And I did start to learn about how to make a movie, and I did write some scripts. I did direct a few short movies.
Okay.
So I was really into that 15, 20, 25 years ago as an outside job. And maybe that would have been something I would go into if I was not in the wine business. But now I would more say wine and cooking. It makes so much sense, and I love the food and the restaurant, the cook so much. That would be, I guess.
Beautiful. So yeah, I mean, food and wine definitely like natural pairing, so to say. But you are a winemaker now. So, and if you think about like your career as a winemaker, is there anything coming to your mind that really influenced your philosophy of wine?
I don't know if I can say one person, but because there is steps that brings you in a field or in another field with time, and there is, I guess, a lot of people who help me to arrive to a step, and maybe some other people who influence me to go on a more precise decision or more precise direction. So it's difficult. I have my advice winemaker, Philippe Cortet, who's been following me since more than around 10 years. And he did help me a lot with the process, because making wine is also something very mental.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's good to talk about it with your problem, not with your lifestyle, not with your family, not with your life, but with your wine. When you have issues, when you have questions, it's good to talk about that with someone. That helps. And this person helped me a lot to go through different steps. And I'm very thankful to Philippe for that. And also, I guess it's not only people, but it's just wine that you taste and influence your direction. because you have revelation, you have emotion, and you said, okay, this wine really brings me something. So this is the rain we were
waiting for
since many weeks. So happy it come now. Maybe not for the interview, but otherwise happy with the rain. So we're not going to complain.
I think everybody is happy about it.
Yes. No. So it's not about a person. It's I think about person, but it's about the wine.
Yeah.
And the wine, the taste brings you emotion, brings you direction you want to have, and helps you to reach a goal.
Oh, and now the sun is even shining on us. It's getting more and more rainbow alarm, right? In a second.
Rainbow alarm.
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing those perspectives. Third question for you, a little bit more like on the personal side. You and your personality as a bottle of wine. What would you put on the table?
On my 20s, I would have put a Châteauneuf du Pape or something strong, a Viognier, a sweet, Gewürztraminer. And with time, you change. Now that would definitely be or a Chasselas or a Pinot Noir.
Okay.
Maybe
so,
a Pinot Noir.
A terroir-driven grape, a delicate grape,
yes,
a complex grape.
And refined and delicate, difficult to work with, exigent, but when you reach the goal, there is, I guess this is the wine who brings me the more emotion.
Okay.
Probably. So now it would be that. You can also put Gamay in the basket.
Also Gamay in the basket.
Yes,
okay.
but Pinot Noir definitely and Chasselas would be the two main cépages who bring me the most emotion. And I guess into the wine it puts the most attention. They are the most difficult also. Pinot Noir is exigent. It's very exigent in the vineyard, in the process of making the wine. That I admire the great Pinot Noir because it's such a difficult goal to reach. Yeah,
I love it. I simply love it. Great. Last question for the introduction round before we dive a little bit more into the wines and the winery. If I say nature, what comes to your mind as a winemaker?
But nature was less relevant before I became organic. It was more, you work with nature, of course, you bring the terroir into it, you bring the particularity of your wine through the terroir. So the nature is into it, and but when you become organic, you need to put more attention and more focus on your soil, on your land, on your grapes, on your vineyard. So the nature arrive into that, and you listen more, and you look more, and you are more attentive to what's inside the nature, with your grape in the middle, and so I guess I am more into the nature now that I was 15 or 20 years ago.
Okay.
Because at the end, the good wine, this is a bit cliche to say that, but this is so true. The good wine is gonna make in the vineyard, and not in the cellar.
And not in the cellar.
And 20, 30 years ago, we were building the wine, and now it's a bit the opposite. You accompany, you take the wine with you, but the intervention is way less than before, and all the focus, all the work is at the vineyard. So of course the nature is the most important.
I want to say, like, while you say it sounds a bit like a cliche,
it is.
I heard this very often. Like, yes. The whole, like, also, like, especially here in Switzerland, it seems like many of your colleagues have a little bit this kind of philosophy. If we really produce great grapes, we don't have so much to do in the cellar. Because it's really
less than before.
Because it's really about bringing in good grape material to make amazing wines.
It is cliche, but you know, if you hear it that often, that because somehow it must be true. But of course you put a lot of attention into that. After, there is so many steps that you need to focus in the cellar to make a good wine, especially with the hot year, hot vintage, less acidity, pH more high, wine more delicate. So you need to be very focused on what's going on in your cellar. And you can't say, I bring nice grapes, I crush them, I let them ferment, and at the end I'm going to have a great wine. So not at all. You need to focus on every single step, and there is a lot until your wine is inside the bottle. So intervention less, but tasting, watching, transferring the wine from a tank to another, very simple things are very important, because the wine are not gonna make himself also. So I really also believe to what the winemaker is doing around, because the natural wine can be popular, maybe in Copenhagen more than here, but still they are popular. But to say that you just leave your wine and at the end it's natural, there is no intervention, no sulfate, nothing, and at the end you're going to have a great result. No, it's not happening, or you're lucky, or it might happen once. But there is a lot of attention and work behind the wine, but maybe with less filter, with less bacteria, with less yeast, with less enzyme, with less product, and but behind your wine, yes, a lot, especially if you work organic.
Wonderful. With that being said, with a clear statement that the winemaker has a role in the process, could you introduce yourself to us and your winery, actually?
So Vincent, Graenicher, Canton de Vaud, Switzerland. I have 3 domains, 3 different wineries. Domaine Panloup in Tartenien, Domaine Escordelière et Domaine Famelan in Mont-sur-Rolle, totally 11 hectares. I took over my father, and it's been since 2011 that I am running the business. Since I'm working with my wife, Astrid, who's from Copenhagen. We're working together, and we became organic officially in 2020. I bring that on the table because for me it did change a lot of things, and it did change a lot of things in the wine, and there is still so much to do until arriving to something who means really a lot. Biodynamic is part of that. I have good hopes that next year I can have a new step with that. It's on it's a plan, and I really would like to reach this step next year. And you always need a goal. You always need to improve and to make things better, because if you don't do that, it means it's time to take over. You need motivation, and you always need to improve. So there is so much things to do. Yes.
Wonderful. And that being said, we have something in the glass already that we sipped a little bit on. And I mean, we are in Vaud. We are there where this grape variety is maybe originating from, right? Somewhere around this lake behind us.
Lausanne.
Lausanne.
Yes,
do we know it precisely that it's from Lausanne?
We have a study.
We have a study,
somebody that we paid a lot of money to say that. José Vuillamo, no, it's not really story. He did some research, and Bassin Lémanique, Lausanne, is the born place of the Chasselas.
I did actually not know that José Vuillamo was doing like a precise study and came up with the conclusion. I mean, I just know the information from the Wine Grapes Encyclopedia, which he co-authored with Jancis Robinson and Julia Harding, right? And I think there it's like still written. I mean, it's from 13 years ago, the book. So maybe there's more like research done. But there it was like somewhere around Lake Geneva, it must originate from, because this goes hand in hand with the theory that a grape comes from the place where we see most like mutations and variations of it, right? And this is basically here. So
but that's around Lake Geneva is fine.
Yeah, okay. Let's somewhere here.
We can stay around that.
But can you introduce à l'origine to us?
Yes, à l'origine is of course a Chasselas. That's our blood, the Chasselas in Vaud, even if we do a lot of different wine. But this Chasselas means a lot to me, because that was my that was my first step in the new kind of wine I wanted to do when I was organic, even before. That was to say, you're going to make a wine with your grapes and nothing else.
Okay.
So it's not a natural wine, there is sulfates, but there is nothing else than a bit of sulfates. And that was very cool in 2017. Through the background I have, very technical steps in the cellar or in the vineyard to reach a wine. And that was, you just keep your knowledge, but you put all of that on the side and you make a wine just with juice, just with grapes that you press, and intervention without adding anything. And that was really cool to do. And I really liked to do that. And at the end, you taste the wine and you say, okay, I can make a great wine with nothing, with just a bit of sulfates and just a good parcel and good grapes. So I did put a lot of attention into this wine. So it's natural yeast, of course, it's natural alcohol, because Chasselas, even in good vintage, doesn't bring that much sugar. So it's possible to add a bit of sugar in the juice to reach the 11.5 or 12% volume that you're looking for. So here you don't do that. So 2024, it's 10.8 percentage of volume, which is a bit light, but which is good because you can drink more. And so the wine is a bit more short, but no filtration, nothing. So it's an honest wine, and you can't cheat with this kind of wine. It's the reflection of this terroir, la parcelle en Roussillon, and it's that makes a wine very easy to drink. That's very easy to drink. You're not tired of drinking. It's not strong. It's light. It's subtle. It's refined. It's refreshing. You start with this wine, and you can drink another one, and you're not going to be tired of it.
And there's also like the let's say ambition with it, which is very nice, right? I mean, of course you can make always like the high-end product, but also you have to think about there must be the table wine. There must be the easy
absolutely.
Wednesday evening. I want a glass of like easy drinking, easy wine. So to say, right?
What is your favorite wine? And of course, you can also take a simple wine that you can drink, because Chasselas is about that. Chasselas can be ambitious and gastronomic and complex, but Chasselas can be also very simple. It's a wine for aperitif, it's a wine for friends, it's a wine easy to drink, it's a conversation wine.
Let's talk about 2024. Was it your most difficult vintage as a winemaker?
Yes,
so
definitely,
far?
yes. Very, very difficult. A lot of treatment, because of a lot of rain, starting April until October, so the whole way. It was until just August. We had 3 weeks dry without rain, sunny, but otherwise from April to August, every single week it was raining, and some weeks it was raining a lot. And when you're organic and it rains more than 20 liters per square meters, you can start again. And so some weeks we had 3 treatments, 7 days. And it took us a full day with 2 tractors to do a treatment. We are lucky, we are with tractor. We can go with a tractor. It's the steam is not crazy difficult. Some it's even more challenging, but still it was raining a lot. And that makes it, we had plus hail, the 31st of July, between 30 and 50% of damage, which is a lot. Plus that, so when you see the vineyard before the harvest, there is always a satisfaction when you see your vineyard before the harvest. It's like, okay, I did a good job, looks beautiful. Let's collect those grapes and make some good wine. But when you see your vineyard in 2024, some parcels like, it's tricky. It's tricky. So it was very difficult. 2025 is nice and sunny. So happy about the weather now.
And that is something we talked at length about, also like how we tasted some wine and you showed me around, right? I mean, global warming is much about every year provides some new surprises.
Yes.
you have to adjust to, right?
It's been 5-10 years that you can see the climate changing a lot. It was more stable, a bit more hot than before, but it was more stable more than 10 years ago. But since 5-10 years, you can really see that. Or a horrible year, that 2024, or very hot 2022, 23, 25. And so you can't say, I'm going to stop with the Chasselas and the Pinot Noir. I'm going to put Syrah, Mourvèdre, Grenache, and make some wine from the south, because now we can do that here. So it's not the way. You need to keep your identity and adjust yourself. So the variety of grapes through the clone that you choose for Chasselas, for example, is something that you can adjust, because some good colleagues did a selection of old variety of Chasselas was existing in the 70s, 60s, 70s, maybe 18s, and they were putting on the side because they were bringing too much acidity and not enough tenderness, smoothness in the wine. And those collections were recreated, and they are interesting because with hot year, especially the Chasselas, who doesn't have a lot of acidity naturally, you can have more acidity and more structure, more freshness in your wine. So this is a way. We did plant a new variety of Chasselas from Le Giclet et Bois Rouge, which is one of those variety as an example. And so this is a way. You remove less leaf than before. Second step, we do that like in the south. If you go South France, they don't remove the leaf in the grapes area during the summer. They protect it from the sun. So you start to do like this. I started to do like this, and you do that to 2024, and then you have to go back you have to go back with your team in the vineyard, because it's not going to happen. You need more oxygen, you need more air in your grapes, and so it's for sure it's more hot, but it's not 100% sure that it's going to happen. If you are a vigneron dans le Var, in Provence, it's going to be hot. It's going to be hot and sunny.
Exactly,
you know that. Yeah. Here it might happen, but you're not sure. So you adapt those way to work, but you're not sure 100% it will happen. But and maybe you collect also your grapes a bit more early. Maybe not for the Chasselas. I don't think the Chasselas with under maturity is interesting, but Chardonnay, you can collect it fresh fruit.
Yeah.
The Pinot Noir also, the Pinot Blanc. And some grapes, yes, you maybe you don't wait until the mature fruit, but you take the fresh fruit, which is a bit before. Especially for the Sauvignon, Chardonnay. I prefer sometimes having the risk to be a bit vegetal than and have the freshness than being fully mature and have too much alcohol and no freshness in the wine.
I can totally agree with that. I observed it in the Merlot that you showed me earlier today, where I really appreciated actually this like kind of signature and handwriting. That being said, what second wine do you want to present for us?
Well, I guess it's going to be a Pinot Noir, because we talked about it before.
Because we have to go into your personality, I think.
Yeah, but yes, of course. So the Pinot Noir.
Particularly proud of, right?
Yes. Sometimes all the stars are going together and everything is going in the right direction to make a great Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir is very difficult to make, at my opinion.
Yeah.
And this vintage, the 2021, it was a very small production, very, very small production. I think we reached less than 3 deciliters per square meters.
Okay.
So if I look the price of this bottle, I didn't win. I didn't make money with this wine, but I had a lot of pleasure. And we had it's a fresh vintage, The summer was not good, but the autumn was great. And 12 months of barrel fermentation, second fermentation during the winter, Burgundy style, I can say. And at the end, I didn't say it coming first, but at the end of the spring, when the wine is starting to be alive again, you taste the wine in the barrels. Jesus, I have something here. It's just good. And at the end, we have a great wine. It's from a parcel. That's the parcel I have the most high in the winery. It's not the best exposition, but it's all the plants. They don't bring a lot of quantity, but yes, you can make a great Pinot Noir there.
I think it's really what I appreciated, like when you open the bottle already, like maybe an hour ago, the concentration of fruit is really outstanding. But now it really opens up, actually. It's really, getting the freshness in the nose is all present. It's really nice on the cherry and sour strawberry side, really classic and true. Is it Burgundy clones, actually, or is it French clones?
There is Burgundy clones. I have to ask my father. There is Burgundy clones. There is clone from Cortaillot also. This is Neuchâtel. My father, because I asked him the different clone, but he didn't write down everything.
Yeah,
so
that's how it is. But, back then.
But at the end, you have the. We were making rosé in this parcel 15 years ago, because it was the exposure was not great, and I guess the rosé became too good to make rosé, and just like. Let's try to make a Pinot Noir and put it into the barrel to make a wine with this parcel. And since we did that, the quality of the wine went up. We said, okay, I have something with this parcel, so I must work on that. And yes, Pinot Noir is it's a difficult wine to work with.
What I really appreciate about it, actually, as I told you inside already, the aftertaste of it, the grip, the structure, it's really well come together, really lingering around there, giving it like some deep, like, I had some campfire connotations even. It's like a little bit like this smoky idea. It fits for me totally to summer, like later summer evenings, sitting outside in the garden by the campfire, having maybe a good piece of meat, and some good friends and some deep conversations, and then you have this kind of wine in the glass.
Yeah, you're a good guy, and I totally agree with all of that, because it stay. I would not say light, but easy drinkable.
Yeah,
that's the goal of all the wine I want to do. They are not heavy. I don't like something too heavy.
We didn't talk so much about your father. So you took over the winery from him.
Yes.
How was the transition going?
Well, it went very well because, first of all, it was really objective and for an organic transition.
Great.
It can be difficult with some winemaker are taking over their father and said, I would like to do that. It can be tricky. So with my father, it was very easy, and he read a lot about it, and he gave me advice on the soil, or to work with some method. He documented himself. So the transition with the organic was very smooth and easy. And with the wine, he didn't really learn how to make wine. He learned with time with a friend. He was really good in the vineyard, and a friend helped him to do the wine. So when I started to work here, he let me do my mistakes, I could say, because I didn't have any strong guideline to work in the cellar with the vineyard, with the wine. So in the vineyard, I can still listening about his advice, because he's a very good wine grower. Yes.
Beautiful. I think with this like look to the past, we can also do a quick look to the future. Come to
Yes.
our concluding question. I mean, people can definitely meet you in January in Copenhagen, together with a lot of other really great and talented and spirited Swiss winemakers. I think we really have a strong Swiss lineup in Copenhagen, so I'm looking forward to it, and looking forward to have you and your families there, because you will make a family excursion, I assume.
Yes,
right?
we go. Everybody's going. Yes.
But 5 years from now, where are you and where's the winery?
But I hope we're still here making wine, and of course each year trying to improve, each year trying to make better wine. So I hope I'm gonna have a great, better wine, even if I'm still happy about it now. Very happy with the wine, very happy, but we can always do better. And maybe our wine will be in some nice table in Copenhagen restaurant.
that is the ambition, right? I mean,
but that would be a plus. That would be a bonus. We're happy to go in Copenhagen anyway, because I love to go to Denmark, and I have my family, my step family there, and plus the Danish are very curious into wine.
They definitely are very open.
I can really see the interest. And I'm looking forward meeting Danish people and make them taste the wine. It's gonna be great.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Vincent, thanks for your time, and cheers on bringing Swiss wine to Denmark.
Thank you, Ian.